Andrew Scott, you play the title character in Ripley, based on the Patricia Highsmith novels. Now, one of the interesting things about this character is how little we really know him or know about him underneath all the layers of all the lies that he tells. As an actor, how do you get to the heart of a character like
I suppose you just have to make a decision pretty early on that the biography of the character isn't, or the backstory, that was up to use that word, isn't ever going to be reliable, and so that's not something that you can sort of go towards in this case. So it's to sort of kind of privately almost establish a kind of emotional backstory for him, and to decide what things that I perhaps think he might be lying about, and really try to focus on the things that he really believes. I think, like with people who are expert at lying, really believe their lies. You know, they're not like second guessing them. They just are able to sort of inhabit a kind of a fantasy world, and are able to think quick. You know, able to think quickly on their feet. And I feel like one of the pleasures for the audience is to be able to look at this character thinking on their feet, when we know we've seen something that's completely the opposite of what he's saying. And so if I'm doing a little bit of acting that suggests that I'm unconfident about what I'm talking about, it sort of diminishes the pleasure, I think, for the audience. So I think we want to see him being absolutely convincing, and not doing any sort of winking to the audience, you know, and just really, really trying to play the truth. So the audience nearly second guessed, did they even see the things that he's saying that they saw.
in a way, could you relate to him as an actor, since he spends much of his time playing a different role, playing someone else depending on who he's with? Did you see some of the same sort of craft in what he does and what you do?
Yeah, I suppose I did. I think in the sense that he's very talented at that, and he has to be able to shapeshift in a way, which of course is what the requirement for actors are. But actually, the reason that character is so enduring and fascinating for so many people, not just actors, is, I think, because we're all a little bit like that. We all adapt ourselves slightly. If there's someone at the gym reception that is very friendly to us every day, sort of a lot of the time we will bring out the friendly side of us. And if there's somebody we feel is really not that keen on us at a dinner party, and they seem a little bit bored by our anecdotes, we probably would be a little bit less enthusiastic about them. So that doesn't mean that one or the other of those situations, or um, those aspects of our character are ingenuine. It just means that's just the way we work. Certain people, certain environments, bring out different parts of us, and I think she's talking an awful lot about that, and about how if you other somebody in the way that Tom has been othered and is ignored, for whatever reason, he's going to have no confidence. Whereas if you put him in an environment where there's art and beauty and class, maybe he can find him. Maybe he can play with that side of himself that has never been given an opportunity to flower. You know.
And how much of any sympathy did you feel for Tom Ripley as you played him, or do you not need to have sympathy for a character, or sort of feel for
Yeah.
them to play them?
I absolutely think you need sympathy, or more than sympathy, perhaps empathy. And I think, you know, your first job is not to judge the character, and so a lot of, particularly, you know, with famous kind of literary characters, you know, I've had a few of them in the past with, you know, James Moriarty and Sherlock Holmes is a famous Arthur Conan Doyle character, and Hamlet I've played, and Chekhov characters, where they're very famous, you know, and so you have to try and fight against their reputation, and really forge your own understanding of what I might think they are. So the idea of him being a psychopath, or being you know, all those words that people use, I didn't find helpful. And also, the murders, so to speak, that he commits only take up a little bit of our filming time. You know, a lot of the scenes that we actually I spent my time with Tom doing was like checking into hotels or having very domestic scenes with Dakota or Johnny, or understanding just the human, very human nature of of Tom, and what it's like to discover new things, and his sort of enthusiasm for life, or his loneliness, or so there were huge amounts of the character that I really did relate to. And then there were, of course, what he does is very extreme, but apart from the extremity and the murder, I think there's so much to sort of understand about solitariness, um, and and just watching a character think. We spent a huge amount of time on our own with this character. I think more so than any other televisual character I can remember in a series like this. Anyway, um, watching him think himself out of a situation, watching him make mistakes. There's loads of mistakes. He's not a natural born killer, and he's not a expert murderer, and he makes a lot. I think one of the great achievements of our series is that we really understand what it would be like to be in that situation that he's in, because he's not particularly adept at it. He doesn't even really like blood, and there are other times when he can soar and his mind is at work. So I don't think it's particularly um, consistent, his abilities.
And you mentioned those murder scenes where we're watching him, sort of figure things out, and there's very little dialogue in these scenes.
Mm.
How challenging is it to kind of convey that mental process, that frame of mind, without words?
It's wonderful, actually. It's really wonderful, because your challenge kind of becomes something else, and you can't really get away with it. You have to think the thoughts. You have to be you have to unlearn the story, and that's our real job as actors, is to pretend that you don't know what you're going to say next or what happens next when you do know. That's our that's our is to be able to show the map of the story. Um, and I loved that, actually. I really loved that, and the details became, both the intellectual details and the plot details became really important, so that we really understand the storytelling, so that the audience is completely. I think that for a lot of people, they've told me when they watch the show that they're on the edge of their seat, because we're not also helped by a huge amount of score either to give us the atmosphere. We're really just looking at we're being invited to sort of really engage and focus in and zoom in on this man's intellect.
And the scene on the boat between Tom and Dickie, in addition to not having a lot of dialogue to work with, it really seems like a fairly physically challenging scene to shoot.
Mm.
How much physical work went into those scenes?
I'm still exhausted from that. Yeah, there was a huge amount, drowning and trying to get back up onto a boat, 30 times in a row. We got an awful lot of footage from that. It's very difficult to come as a human being in an ocean back onto a boat. It's just like that. Even that is very. It's not something that you can sort of easily do. And there's a lot of rock lifting. Trying to lift a dead body is incredibly difficult when you don't know how to do that. It's frustrating, and you make a mess, and you're trying to get the equilibrium of your body right, and all that kind of stuff. And then I was lifting rocks, and all that whole entire episode is just pure. It's action. It's just that's just there's no other word for it. So I actually really loved that. It was a difficult thing to shoot, but I loved the challenge of it, and I think the way it's been shot and the different perspectives is really genuinely extraordinary. So yeah, I love that because it's so unusual for television in that way.
And one of the more interesting physical aspects of this series is that the stairways are like a recurring
Mhm.
motif. Was there a lot of climbing also?
Oh yeah, yeah. There's lots of climbing. If you go to Italy, that's part of your experience. But I had a lot because we did a lot of, Steve likes to get a lot of coverage, so I was up and down I was up and down those stairs a lot. So I had buns of steel.
The series was shot in black and white by cinematographer Robert Elswit, which
Yeah.
I think the visual quality is one of the absolute highlights of the series. Did you know that was going to be the approach going into it? And what do you think about being able to shoot it that way?
Yeah, the black and white was a question that it was certainly, I knew that it was Steve's great wish to shoot it in black and white. That's the way he saw it as soon as he read the novel. But I suppose the question was whether he would be allowed to do it. And so, yeah, it's really strange to look at it now, because of course Italy itself is so colorful. Um, and Yeah, I think we knew that there was a strong possibility it could be black and white, but there also was a possibility that it could end up being in color too, in a sort of a saturated way. But one of the most extraordinary uh, things about this iteration of the story is the cinematography. It's just his work in this is just absolutely singular and beautiful, and people are. I'm really moved by how many people are so taken with the picturesque nature of it, and how people say that you could take a snapshot of any a scene in the series and frame it. It's so beautiful, and Steve is very particular about the frame and what way he wants to see it, and I think that really, really, really shows.
And what was it like crafting this character with Steven Zalian, as your writer and director over, these 8 episodes? What was that collaboration?
Well, the first thing to say is that the biggest tool you have, the kind of Bible you have, really is the script. And one of the things that I think is respectful is to give the actor the entire story, from beginning to end. So you're able to map out what where you want the character to where you want the character to go. I think it's difficult for actors when you get the first 2 episodes and you go, I don't really know where this character is going. So if you don't know where the character ends up, you're at risk of sort of repeating yourself, and you're not able to map out. I think what you really want in a character is you want to start as far. Um, you want to, you from A to Z. You don't want to go from A to F. You want to go from A to Z. So if you don't know what Z is, you can't sort of map it out for yourself, because it's all music to my mind. So that was the thing I was greatly appreciative of to get that. Get all the scripts right from the beginning from Steve, so I could map all that stuff out. Um, and then a lot of the work, um, I suppose I feel like the character had a huge amount of secrets in a way, and there were lots of decisions that I kind of kept to myself in a way, about what way I saw the character. And my job, I think, is to um, give Steve options, and he had a very particular vision of how he saw not just the story, but the character in a sense. And uh, my job, I think, is to give him as much freedom in the edit as you can, and that requires, I suppose, a good a good degree of trust, because obviously you have preferences as an actor, but that's part of the thing that you have to sort of give up as an actor, is a sense of um, of what's the word, paranoia about um, what way the edit is going to go. It's one of the difficult things. I come from the theater, where you're very much in control of what way the audience is going to see your work. You're the kind of chief artist in that sense. And so one of the things I've really learned is to have the courage to be able to give a lot of options, even though some of them um, you may not fully stand by, and to give that up, because I think that's part of the pact that you go into, and sometimes that's more successful than others.
And lastly, I was just wondering, there are multiple Tom Ripley novels. So would you want to return to this role if the opportunity came to, continue this story?
I think it would depend on a lot of things, really, a lot of different circumstances. The gestation period for this was really long, because of so many things going on in the world, and various different things. The period from being asked to play the part and it coming out now has been a considerable amount of time. And so, yeah, it's just interesting to see it going out in the world now and how people are perceiving it. So I would never say never, but at the moment it's I'm looking at it as a limited series, and if that's all it is, then I'm so grateful to have had the opportunity to play this extraordinary character, and um, uh, yeah, so you never know in the world what might happen. But I'm looking at it as a limited series, you know.
Well, I want to congratulate you on your work in the series, and thank you so much for talking with me about it today. It's been a pleasure.
Likewise, Daniel. Thank you so much.